On today's episode of The Nerd Note, is your home Wi-Fi good enough for remote work and learning? Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Nerd Note. I am your host, Jason Garcia, and with me, as always, is the Buzz Lightyear to my Woody. Ooh, yes.
I'm not sure that works.
And our guest.
Sure that works.
And our guest today.
Wait, pause. Can Adam be your Buzz?
No.
Because I think I'll pass.
I'll be the guest, actually. I'll just be that.
All right, let's do that again, but staying the same.
Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Nerd Note. This is episode 4 in our new home, our new studio. You'll see a lot of changes over the next coming episodes of what this studio will look like. But I am your host, Jason Garcia. With me, as always, is the Buzz Lightyear to my Woody, Matt Enderly. And our guest today is the Max Tech IT manager, Adam Ray. Welcome, Adam.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome. And today, we are going to be talking about WAP.
Yes.
Not that WAP, but wireless access points. Yes, Cardi B, the nerds owned this before you did. So without further ado, let's get started. I know there's going to be a lot of questions out there. A lot of people working from home during this pandemic. Kids learning from home. My kids are still learning remotely. And a lot of people are complaining about slag time when it comes to their Wi-Fi. So, Matt, if you want to go ahead and get this party started, let's start grilling out.
Well, yeah, I think so. Wow. Quick question: since your kids are still doing online learning, are they streaming? I mean, is it Zoom calls?
No, they do like Google Meet. So yes, they're streaming.
So they're doing video calls.
Yeah, and then my wife is also working from home currently, so
doing video as well.
Doing video as well. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got 2 streams. You got 2 kids, so maybe potentially 3 streams.
Yep.
So 3 video streams going on.
Correct.
Sometimes concurrently.
Oh yes, all day.
Okay. Additional, everything else that goes on the internet. You're getting emails. You're surfing the web. You're doing coursework. So there's quite a bit going on.
Absolutely, 100%.
Ever like a TV on in the background streaming?
No, not during the day.
Yeah.
Everyone is
because you regulate that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Unless my wife decides she wants to watch Real Housewives, and but
Right. That happens.
outside of that,
That happens. Okay. So I mean, I was just wondering, what kind of bandwidth requirement. Have you had to upgrade your internet are you with Spectrum?
yeah, we're Spectrum. No, actually, we have the highest internet that they offer.
So you already had.
So we already had it.
Okay.
So thank goodness.
Why
too.
did you upgrade?
It just happened to come with the package we bought. It was essentially free for the highest internet.
So you didn't experience a negative issue and then upgraded. You just upgraded because it was part of a bundle.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you notice anything when you upgraded?
Oh yeah, it's so much faster.
Yeah.
We don't have the issues. Let's say kids are on their tablets and Katie and I are trying to watch a show, on Netflix or something.
Yeah.
It's not buffering like it used to.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So
plus
and this is a little bit off the topic of the wireless. I don't want to stay on the wireless, but in regard to working from home and online schooling, internet speeds are imperative as well. When I bought my house, as bad as this is, as a technology person, bought my house not realizing there was no Spectrum. And I'm telling you, when I realized that, when I called Spectrum, I didn't think this out. When I realized it was DSL, I literally could not do YouTube. I could not, and you guys know, but they may not. I live on YouTube,
Yes.
an hour and a half to 2 hours every day. It literally was horrible. You don't realize how much you use YouTube when you're working on the car and you forget how to do something and you had to get on YouTube. When I moved into the actual broadband, life changer.
Sure.
And I upgraded to the highest one as well. I don't experience any issues. I do a lot on the internet. But I think for those listening, having good internet is imperative. And the different internet providers always out expanding their networks. And I think that's imperative for people to keep calling and checking. I think we can do site surveys on address for residential. I think we can. So if people need someone to run... And there's also services online. What we'll do is we'll post a link.
Yep.
There's a website you can type your address, and it will go search all the internet carriers in your area. So I think the goal for this podcast, at least in my eyes, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, is to be able to educate our users in potential Wi-Fi issues. Maybe they need to upgrade their Wi-Fi. Maybe they have a setting wrong. Maybe they need to upgrade their internet and see what's out there. And so hopefully this can give some insight to people who may be up against those challenges and can help them out.
Yeah, because I think for a lot of folks, including myself, this is out of our comfort zone. This is out of our knowledge base. I'm a nerd in a totally different realm where this is more you're an Adams and you know some of these pains where other folks are just saying, well, maybe my internet's just running slow because the whole neighborhood's learning remotely at this
Right.
time and everyone's working
Right.
from home. But really that isn't, it's part of the issue, but there's, it's obviously things within your home that you can do to help address that. So I think that this can be really, really helpful, especially during this time. And then going into this fall and winter where, they're saying things could get bad again. We could end up all at home again. So
I'm actually surprised. I mean to cut you off. I'm actually surprised that wireless routers didn't go out of stock. And maybe they did.
Might have.
But I'm really surprised because laptops did, right?
Yes.
Everybody was working from home and the laptops
Yep.
were just off the shelves. We were back ordered, a month or two?
And we're also seeing that now.
We're getting it again.
Getting it again.
And I don't know if it's the people are prepping. But my guess is, and correct me if I'm wrong, in your world, so you guys know Jason's in our digital marketing department, not our IT department. So for you, the wireless breaks or has issues, and you think, call internet or replace my router.
yeah, absolutely.
And you would not necessarily just default to, it's possible that back in the day, this probably is not true today, but you would run your microwave and your microwave would interfere with your Wi-Fi.
Well, yeah, actually, in some of the research for this podcast, that was something that was brought
On
up.
the microwave.
Yeah, and I had never thought about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, but in that instance, your wife or kids might be making a bag of popcorn and you think your wireless is bad, or you call
Right.
Spectrum and bump your plan and you pay monthly now on that when you didn't need to because there was interference. Maybe your neighbor has a printer that has wireless on it.
Right.
Has it off 99% of the time. When he turns it on to print something, it now creates a new wireless network,
Right.
clogs up the Wi-Fi space, and now you're experiencing issues.
Right. Yep.
So
I think this will be super helpful to some folks that are working remotely or managers who are looking at having their team go home to work. So with that, let's get this puppy moving, Matt. Let's do some grilling of Adam,
Yeah.
and you guys can nerd out, and we'll go from there.
Oh, I can't
Okay.
wait.
So I think one of the things we want to go over is what's called hub and spoke versus mesh, which is also known as repeaters. So Adam, if you want to tell us a little bit about the difference between hub and spoke multi-access point versus repeaters on a mesh network.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff you see nowadays with Netgear Orbeez or the Google Wi-Fi. So what they do is they have a hub and spoke, meaning you have one hub, an access point that has power, your Ethernet from your modem from Spectrum or AT&T, whoever that is, it comes in, brings that cable in over a Cat 6, Cat 5 cable, Ethernet cable, plugs into that particular router. And then what that does, and then creates your wireless access, your network, your SSID, your broadcast. Then what happens is you have a little satellite or another device that sits out that you plug in. All it needs is power. What it does then is it connects and joins to that broadcast, that network there, and then rebroadcasts it out again by just using power. So basically it's bridging that gap without having to run an Ethernet cable through the rest of your house. It's able to amplify that signal in different rooms, either first and second floor. That's one of the major components of that. Now, with a mesh system, it's a little bit different. The fact that it does not require that main access point to be on. They're independently run, so they create their own networks, and then you're able to hop between those two as you move around your house or whatever it is. It does not require that main access point to be on. A little bit of a difference, One
So
is
if
required-
the main, in the hub and spoke, if the main one dies, they all die.
exactly.
And mesh, they all kind of work together. If one dies, it stays running.
Exactly. They connect wirelessly. So if one of those would go down, it would just still connect to another one, and they'd still, it's redundancy basically.
So what do most folks have at home then?
So traditionally, most people have either most providers, Spectrum, AT&T, are going to give you a combo unit of a modem router with wireless access point built into that. And they're going to have one box that plugs in. They're going to give you a name of it. It's going to be like Spectrum 5G,
Right, yeah,
Spectrum
that's what I have,
2.4. They're going to give you a little password on the
You
bottom
have the
of it.
Spectrum Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
So in the IT space, and maybe this is artificial, we generally don't recommend people do the modem Wi-Fi combos.
No.
And they are simple in design, and that's the appeal. One box, plug it in, turn it on, you're good to go, right? If it breaks, you call Spectrum. In our eyes, we want to be able to change the wireless and get things like, for me, I want external antenna. So those are the little paddles. I want those to be separate. And that's because I can take those off and buy high gain antennas relatively cheap. If I get a wireless access point with built-in antennas, and your modem would be built-in antennas, now those are not changeable. And so for me, as an IT person, I want external antenna.
Okay.
Which really isn't common. It used to be way more common, 5-6 years ago with the Linksys stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is why when I worked at Best Buy, I don't work at Best Buy, we would always go to the Linksys brand because they had the replaceable antenna.
Yeah, the high gain. You
High
came
gain.
with a standard one of certain dB, and then you could get a high gain antenna or high powered antenna that just would screw on.
By the way, when I just told you I had Spectrum Wi-Fi, you looked at me like I just punched a baby.
Yeah, man. I gotta tell you, we gotta talk with you after this and get you on a proper setup.
The biggest thing with those boxes, they're getting all one unit. So if one component would go out, you lose everything. And also, typically where your cable comes in is either in a closet, someplace not great for reception. They also
Exactly.
have very small antennas on them that are not, that's a multi-unit. They're, you can't be great at one thing. You know what I mean? So it multi-purpose, multi-use, and they're usually in terrible spots. They're underneath your TV stand, someplace random out of the way. With the ability to have a standalone router that has wireless on it, you can run an Ethernet cable out someplace a little bit longer and get you out in the open area that gets some better.
So where's
signal.
yours?
I think upstairs in my office.
Second story?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so
So higher is better.
absolutely. You have the old.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, you have the waterfall effect. The way the wireless goes down, it branches out like an umbrella. So you want to have it as high as possible in your room, and also centered to your house as well.
So hub and spoke. So the hub, you've got the brain and you've got the satellites and the mesh. They all operate kind of independently, but they still branch off of each other.
Exactly.
In those models, you can still have a situation where you plug the main one in, and that requires a hard wire from your modem, and then the other ones are wireless.
Yes.
Additionally, and I don't know if there are maybe brands out there that do both, but additionally, you could have it where it's. So let's use an example. Okay, you have your modem is in the basement. That's where mine is, in a utility closet, and you put wireless there that's hardwired. Then that your coverage isn't great upstairs in the second story because, like Adam said, you have the waterfall and mine's in the basement. It's not going to go up as well as it's going to go down. So in that instance, I go and buy another access point and put it upstairs on the main floor. And let's say I want it out of the way, so I put it in a media cabinet in the TV room. At that point, if and correct me if I'm wrong, let's say my computer standing in the exact same spot without that second access point on gets, say, 2 bars, which is half. Let's say it's half signal. If I plug an access point in right there and set it up, it's basically picking up 2 bars. Now, when I plug that in and set it up, my laptop is going to show 4 bars. The problem is the 4 is very misleading, right? Because you have to go with the weakest link between any of the devices. And that's really what you're getting. So often I know we get emails from clients and they're saying, hey, I have 4 bars. I should be fine. I have to say, do you have a repeater somewhere? So some of the equipment people could buy allows you to run a network wire from the main one to the second one.
Are you having to cut through walls and stuff?
You have to cut through. Yeah, it's a nightmare. That's why it's not convenient at all. And most people don't do it unless it's a significant problem.
Right.
To where it's like, you know what? I don't care. I'm doing, which is me.
So I'd assume people more living in the country or out than
No, I don't know about that.
In
In fact, it may be the opposite. I'll tell you why.
folks in the burbs have it worse.
Folks, yeah, only because everyone has wireless.
Right.
So you go to an apartment complex with 400 apartments and everyone has wireless, let's say.
Right.
Even if 300 have them. Well, there's only so much wireless airspace. So now they're all competing.
Right.
Okay, so now even though you say, great, 4 bars, well, yeah, with 200 other people in the same channel of the wireless. So when you get out into the country, like me, I can see one neighbor. I can see one neighbor's Wi-Fi, and frankly, it might be 10 or 20%. I can only see it on one side.
Sure.
So it's that I don't have as much competing airspace.
Right.
Okay. So I would say more so now, you get into the burbs, and your issue is your lack of internet options and speeds. So if you could get through that hurdle, then you're okay.
Sure.
But in my situation was my home office. I had my wireless downstairs. I had one access point, one wireless. In my home office, my printer was wireless. I could not. My computer was hardwired, but I only had one wire. So I would go to hit print. I'm sorry, my laptop was Wi-Fi, and we'll get into. I'll let Adam talk about the different speeds of Wi-Fi. But my printer was an older version of Wi-Fi. So it couldn't pick up the Wi-Fi coverage, even though there was wireless coverage throughout my home office. It did reach. The printer couldn't connect consistently because it was Wi-Fi G, or maybe it was even B. It was G.
I have the same problem with my printer.
Printers have
wireless.
old or older, you get what you pay for.
Yeah,
you
it was
buy
nice
a
when I
cheap
bought it.
printer.
10 years ago, it was nice.
Yeah,
Not anymore.
well, but even now, you can buy like a decent printer, but it has a cheap Wi-Fi chip because in their eyes, why go get some crazy gaming Wi-Fi chip?
Yeah.
It's unnecessary.
Yeah.
So now you get it where the AC, you might have an AC router, AC access point, but the reach doesn't get. So I had to go get another wireless access point and put that on my network drop in my home office. I could have meshed them, meaning use it as a repeater, but I didn't want to because I know that the coverage in there was already bad.
Right.
So I took the time to run the and you know what? There's still holes in my house on the walls because I have not patched them.
But just so you guys know, he looked around the corner to see if his wife was here, as if she could hear us right now.
Yeah,
But-
she might be. She seems to always be able to hear me.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if I'm out of state. She hears what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, but there's holes all over because I ran this wire and I was like, I have to get this working. It's that imperative to me that I literally
Right.
destroyed a wall in my two walls in my house because I needed that. So I think to go back to that, I mean, hub and spoke versus repeaters versus mesh can be wired or wireless.
Exactly. Yes. The just for reference for any of your people out there watching that are interested. So the Netgear Orbi series, some of the higher end ones, they basically give you a number on there. There's a 4-digit number. It's going to basically give you a square footage range that they estimate of your house.
Oh, really?
3,500, 5,000, whatever it may be. It's a theoretical number.
If you're Adam, it's 7,000.
It's some theoretical number that they, in a perfect environment, perfect world, it should cover. They offer a wired connection into their satellites or their hubs.
So you can do both.
So you can do both of those. On their lower end models, they have ones that just literally plug in. They look like just a little wall.
Like a Glade plug-in.
Yeah,
or
like a Glade plug-in. They just plug into a wall. They pick up the Wi-Fi, broadcast it out. Most houses, that's going to work perfectly fine. If you want a little more throughput, a little better power, you can use the wire. If you can get a wire to that connection, always the better option.
And
Wired is always going to win no matter what you're doing.
What is something like that Blade plug-in, roundabout run for people that would be interested in that?
Well, and do you buy them as a kit or individual?
So you can add them
I have
on
no
as
idea.
they're called satellites. So you can add them ad hocly after the fact, and they plug in. It'll support so many per device. Typically, they come as a kit. If you get like the a 3500 kit, let's say it's going to come with a larger router.
So you buy the kit based upon your house size.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
So they have you're going to get a base station with a wireless connection or your wired connection for your modem or router, and it's also going to have an output, 3 outputs for a switch essentially to plug into other devices. And then for the smaller unit,
So if you had a printer or a desktop computer
Absolutely.
beside it, you'd plug that in.
absolutely.
What does something like that run?
You're going to look, $250 to $300 depending on it, and goes up from there.
So it's a reasonable fix to a
Well, I
problem.
mean, define reasonable, right? Because 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I was working at Best Buy, a good solid Wi-Fi would be $40 or $50.
Yeah. Yes.
And now we're getting into $300 for a kit.
Yeah, you could get a Linksys
Or more.
old WRT.
Right, WRT models. I mean, they were tried and true. So I mean, when I started shopping for one of these mesh type systems
Yeah.
for the in-laws, I looked at it and said, "Wait a minute, $300? Like this is nuts." And I started shopping around, thinking maybe that was the only brand that was off. But they're all about $300 to $400 for the 3 kit.
Yeah.
Okay, so they seem to me to come into a 3 kit.
Yeah. You got you got Orbi, you got Eero, Netgear. All those kind of have their own. Google has a big brand awareness for that kind of stuff. So they all come in usually 2 to a 3 pack, depending on how large of the size of house you have.
Yeah, and I think $200 to $300 for the issue of we have all these people now working remotely, kids working, and if you're constantly buffering, you're able to access things you need to access, it is affecting the kid's ability to learn. It is affecting your ability to work. And if you're not getting your work done, then now you're a liability to your employer. So, for $200 to $300, it is definitely a good solution, an affordable solution for just about anybody.
Yeah, if you're having problems, I mean, ultimately you're going to have to spend the money to get it fixed. If it's affecting your job, if your kids are not able to do their work, you have to come up with something. If it's spending that money, I understand it sucks and time's tight, but something you have to do.
Well, we all know the bank of Matt Enderly, so we can just hit him up for $200-$300.
Yeah, I'm sitting here going, I don't know. One of the things I want to go real quick, and then we can wrap up. I think we're approaching the 20. We're at 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Those of you who don't know, we try to keep the podcast to 20 minutes. But one of the things I think is imperative is the parental controls, and not from what you think. I don't care if you don't care what your kids are looking at on the internet. But the reality is, an Xbox that's gaming or 4 iPads streaming Netflix can have an impact on your business call with a client. And one of the things that I'm seeing on some of these home Wi-Fi kits is the ability to pick a device and control how much internet speed it can utilize. So let's say you have a 600 by 35 meg connection. You can go in there and say, okay, I want to guarantee that I'm working. It's extremely important. I want to guarantee 100 meg by 10 meg, download and upload, for my computer, and I want to limit the Xbox, the PlayStation, the iPads. I want to limit those devices during these hours, your office hours. And so now, they still get what they need after hours, and they can still get on, but it doesn't cause an issue for you.
And you said earlier, we were talking about this stuff in our prep. I can actually then turn off, let's say, my son's Wi-Fi access at 9 p.m.
Time conditions.
Right.
So, we all like to think, our kids know at a certain time there's no more tablets or phones or whatever, but their kids are going to sneak something to their room. But I can just, nip that in the bud and just schedule it for 8 o'clock. No more Wi-Fi.
And instead of nagging, hey, are you off the Wi-Fi?
Right.
They're off the Wi-Fi because they're scheduled off the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And so, or
now you can play Snake on your phone, but that's
and the
about
thing
it.
is, like, everyone these days really is streaming cable, right?
Right.
You don't have. So if you're doing Wi-Fi to an Apple TV or Roku, and you want the TV in the bedroom to shut off at 9, great, shut it off at 9. Shut their Wi-Fi off at 9. To me, that's the parental controls. But I think what's imperative for the purpose of us to working from home is that you limit the available internet speed for them,
right,
so that it doesn't infringe on what you're trying to do for work.
Right.
And I know, here in the last, 6 months with everything going on with COVID, we've got a lot of support tickets, and we have to ask, is anyone else on your Wi-Fi?
Sure.
Is your neighbor sharing your Wi-Fi and you don't know it? Is it secure?
Yeah. How far are you away from your router?
How far are you away? Well, the thing is, that's even a tricky question, because how far are you away? Well, I can see it. Okay, is that the main, or is that the repeater?
Right.
And is there any interference from other Wi-Fi or a microwave?
Right.
Or there's so many things that can come into play for those things. And we're going to be publishing a troubleshooting guide, I think, for the Wi-Fi. Yep. So if you guys have more questions, you always feel free to give us a call, but also go to our website. We'll put a link to the PDF.
We'll put a link to the PDF. We'll post it on Facebook. Anywhere that you basically, you'll be able to find it, whether it's
in a blog, I think, as well.
Whether it's at digifone.com. It'll be a blog on Digifone's website, as well as MaxTech. And so you'll be able to locate that, and it should be able to answer all of the stuff we've gone over today in a little more detail, a little more layman's terms.
A whole book here.
And I was going to say one thing. I think we get this question a lot for people. I think to go over real quick before we go is the difference between 2.4 and 5 gigahertz that they see in on their wireless access points.
Yeah,
I think the quick analogy for people to think about is the 2.4 is the older model. That's going to be your marathon runners. Slower but long range.
Okay.
And then your 5 gigahertz is going to be your sprinters. Real fast, great throughput, but real short distances. So that 5 gigahertz doesn't carry through walls quite as well. The 2.4, you're going to see that in a lot more of your house as opposed to the 5 gigahertz. So just keep that in mind when you're seeing those things. If you're seeing a reduction, make sure you're connected to your 2.4 and switch back and forth and kind of test those out where you're at in your house.
I like that comparison, the marathon runner versus sprinter. That's a pretty good visual.
Yeah.
So
which one are you?
None of the above.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering.
So, guys, I want to thank you for joining us again. We're just back at this since quarantine.
Yeah.
We moved office spaces. We renovated a whole new studio. We're gonna have a whole new look and feel coming over the next couple of months. We do have a lot of great guests coming. We're gonna be recording. about 6 to 8 podcasts over the next 6 to 8 weeks.
And the next one is actually on VoIP.
The next one is on VoIP, and then we have one coming. A gentleman by the name of Joel Armbruster. He's the CEO of Phoenix Bats. He's working with Hall of Famer Barry Larkin on a really cool project.
I think I heard some tidbits on this, and it's pretty interesting stuff. It's good stuff.
So we'll have him on. You'll be seeing that. Make sure you check us out on the Nerd Notes, nerdnote.com.
Nerdnote.com. Right.
You can apply to be a guest on here. And so lots of good things coming. Make sure you check in, and you can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and
they can post comments about this subject on either platform, right?
Absolutely. Any questions, make sure to reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer any of your questions. So again, thanks for joining us on the Nerd Note, and we'll see you next time.